Hello, my name is Andre Ward, and I'm the Associate Vice President of the David Rothenberg Center for Public Policy at the Fortune Society. Welcome to Both Sides of the Bars, a discussions-driven show that examines the legal system from various perspectives, including people most impacted by the criminal legal system. We discuss critical questions about how this current system works, its intersections with social justice, and we highlight the efforts that are being made to improve the lives of everyone that are affected. We ask you, the viewers of Both Sides of the Bars, to spread the word at Both Sides of the Bars. And you can share your comments with us on Twitter at The Fortune SOC. Today's show is titled A New and Innovative Approach to Justice, the Credible Messenger Movement. Serving as mentors in community programs, credible messengers are individuals who are able to connect with and mentor the most challenging people because they come from the same communities, are often formerly incarcerated themselves, or are involved in the justice system. In addition, they've turned their lives around, demonstrate integrity and transformation, and are skilled and trained in mentoring young people. In New York City alone, more than 2,500 justice-involved people look to get their lives back on track and have been engaged with those who consider themselves to be credible messengers. And as a result, the criminal recidivism rate of the young people is down significantly, thus proving how effective credible messenger work is. Similar work has been done with great success in Washington, D.C., Oakland, California, and other states. Today, we have some really great guests with us to talk about credible messenger work. And those guests are Tiffany Branch, who serves as a program consultant at Manhattan-based Credible Messenger Justice Center, in addition to Abdul Malik. And Abdul Malik serves as the executive director of FUSE, which is Families United to Social and Educational Development. Tiffany and Abdul, thank you so much for joining us today here on Both Sides of the Bars. How are each of you feeling today?
Good, thank you.
Tiffany, how are you?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for having me.
And thank you both for joining again. This is a very important conversation. When we think about the work of credible messengers and its impact, we know how effective that work is. And each of you have committed your lives to that work. So we want to thank you for that. And I guess I'll start with you, Tiffany, right, in this work. You know, we've known each other for some time. I know your commitment to it. And Abdul, I know you too. We've met each other on occasions and also know how deeply committed you are to the work. Tiffany, how did you become, a part of the Credible Messenger movement?
Oh man, the Credible Messenger movement. This has been like a lifelong journey for me because before I even started to get into any involvement with the justice system, I was already doing the work as a youth, working at the PAL, doing mentoring and tutoring for the Youth Link program. But moving forward, I had gotten into some trouble. I joined FedCap and became one of the mentees of their programs as I was continuing my education and obtaining my master's. So once I graduated, I wanted to be a mentor so bad. I was like, I want to pay it forward. I want to give it back. And ultimately applied for a mentor position at FedCap and gained the position as director. So that's where the work really, really began for me because I was working with youth and young adults from 16 to 24 that were on probation. And it's called the Arches program. And that program just focuses on behavior modification, mentoring, influencing, coaching, and trying to assist with the young people in their decision making.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And similarly, Abdul, how did you become part of the Credible Messenger work?
So about 10 years ago, there was a lot of, how can I say, heat on the streets under former mayoral administration, Mike Bloomberg. So we were out here. I was really on the streets doing a lot of activist work around stop and frisk and aggressive policing and disenfranchised and disconnected communities in the South Bronx. The opportunities started presenting, conversations started happening around different, lanes of trying to get community involved and trying to change the trajectory of how communities were being looked upon through the lens of the criminal justice system. So I got involved with the organization, the Bronx Clergy Criminal Justice Roundtable, under the leadership of Tim and Q English, Reverends Tim and Q English. And I kind of got into the credible messenger movement as a result of working with them in the Arches process from a community perspective. So my give back, or my commitment, was to kind of get involved in the justice system through the Arches process, which was awarded to the BCCJR at the time. So that was my first experience with, the professional side of being a mentor and working into the credible messenger movement.
And that's a great segue into this, right? Because each of you have clearly committed yourselves to this based on how you've been impacted and what you've experienced. But what makes each of you a credible messenger? And I know we're hearing a little feedback in the background, either Abdul or maybe Tiffany, if we can put it on mute until you're able to respond. But I'll start with you, Tiffany. What makes you a credible messenger?
What makes me a credible messenger is that, I'm a mom of 2 boys, right? And I know that I've kind of contributed to some of the violence that, took part in the streets. And I was kind of playing Jekyll and Hyde, being the good girl, being the bad girl. But what makes me credible is that, I can relate to people. I can relate to a lot of people in the community that are justice involved. I come from the same communities. I'm passionate. I just love working with people. I like to see people succeed. I like to see people successful. So my dedication, my drive, my motivation, just working with people and helping others elevate. That's what makes me a credible messenger.
Abdul?
So for me, my credibility comes from my people in my community, right? I always say everyone has a credible message, but everyone can't be a credible messenger. So really, I think that whole conversation about what makes me credible is the connectedness and being able to build the right relationship to support individuals who find themselves in spaces, especially in the criminal justice space, and they want to navigate themselves out of it. Also, being exposed just to community life. I come from some of the same spaces my young people are fighting to get out of right now. So I think it's just having the right conversation with folks, being, my authentic self and making those connections. Am I always credible to everybody? Absolutely not. Those people choose who they want to believe are credible. And I think that's what makes a good credible messenger.
And speaking about that, Abdul, there's been this term, right, to describe folk who are involved in the credible messenger work as the new street level bureaucrat. What does that mean?
So, Lipsky, that was a piece that I worked on in school. It was how you say, a social scientist, Lipsky, who came up with that the street level bureaucrats. Talk about frontline workers and governmental agents who are able to do implementation of policy and community. And when we look at what the credible messengers are today, or what the role we play, we actually do this. We're the new age frontline worker. We're in spaces, we're dealing with our young folks in the community, dealing with trauma through mental health, engaging in the criminal justice system, even education. So, you bring folks like myself or Tiffany who have a clear sense of what goes on in the community every day, because we live there or have lived there and continue to be in those spaces, but also being able to work in systems and being able to kind of really, marry the two, especially when there's a long history of trauma of systems negatively affecting community. The credible messenger now is a professionalized opportunity for us to come into those spaces and really make sure that our communities are serviced, properly, and our young folks are led to the right spaces to get the necessary help and support they need to be better people.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely, Tiffany. Sure.
So just to add to what Abdul was saying, the impact that we leave on these young people, it is heard. It is shown, it is heard mouth to mouth. And what also makes us credible and being able to be on both sides of the table, community and system sides, is that not only do the young people trust us and believe in us and want to be able to follow our same paths. But we also have folks in systems that believed in us enough to bring us in and to, to sit at the table and help them make some of these decisions that affect our communities.
Absolutely. And Tiffany, when we're talking about the credible messenger work, how has it been as a credible messenger doing the work in the community and transitioning into the system side of things, right? Because here it is, right? You had some background and experience in making some of the decisions that some of our younger people have made that have led them in a path that ultimately caused them to lose time in their lives, etc. But now you're also working with systems. So how has that been as a credible messenger, doing the work in the community and transitioning to the systems side of things?
I mean, the working in the community, you have that direct effect on people, whether it's the young people, the families, your peers in the community. So it's been a difference in that sense, but being able to work in systems that transition, working in systems, being able to actually tell systems, this is what my people need. This is what they want. You can't tell us what we need, right? You can't tell us what it is that we want. We know, right? We've been deprived of education. We're impoverished. We need more resources. We need enrichment activities. So being able to have that kind of impact and voice at the table in systems, that's the main difference for me.
Mm-hmm. Abdul?
I mean, I can't say it better myself. Tiffany took the words right out of my mouth. But the one thing I want to say is like one of my mentors told me a part of being a credible messenger is not just mentoring to the community, it's also mentoring up. It's also, being impactful at the table, being able to make those, articulate the need of the community. But one of the things Tiffany did, is stress, we don't work. I don't work in my community. I live there. Right. So my credibility is every day I get up and I walk outside and folks can see me. But then when they find out what I do and they're able to say, come and have a conversation about how do I access this resource? That's one of the more critical parts about the work and being able to do what we do is, right. Being able to share how to get to resources and then also being able to share with folks how to kind of roll those resources out for folks in communities to accept it. Because one thing about community, once they're traumatized or they feel like this is not a trusting situation, you can have the best services in the world, but the community ain't coming to that place.
Right.
They will not come there. And then, so in order for that to happen as credible messengers in these spaces, what do we have to do? We have to kind of, like you said earlier, we have to model the integrity to be for folks to be able to say, if Abdul or Tiffany or Andre, if they're in these spaces, then it must be safe for us to come to these spaces too, and they're not selling us out. And then also remembering to as they build these structures and say, well, we from the system's perspective, say, oh, this was going to work. Go back to the system and say, whoa, it may look good on paper and it may sound good, from how you was designing it. But to implement this and be able to make those necessary changes so that not only is the service effective, but the community is using it appropriately. That is what the credible messenger is in my opinion is tasked to do, to make sure that these two entities are married and work together, collectively.
And you spoke, Abdul, about spaces, right? And in speaking about spaces, like where are credible messengers? Like where are they?
So credible messages is everywhere. So I know initially we spoke about, you made the formerly incarcerated men and women. I got to talk, always when I have this conversation, I think about the great Eddie Ellis, who was one of my mentors, who really kind of coined that terminology about what credible messengers were, formerly incarcerated men and women, coming back and getting involved to kind of help change the social direction of community. But over these last several years, as the movement has grown, we've seen that credible messengers are not just formerly incarcerated. You have mothers who have dealt with domestic violence, people who deal with the LGBTQAI community, folks who have these different experiences and also know how to navigate the systems that impact these, these groups and are able to kind of help navigate other folks who find themselves into these systems. So credible messengers, in my opinion, are everywhere. There's no specific lane. Oh, you gotta have been formerly incarcerated to be credible. No, credibility comes, like I said, from those who can articulate their experiences and have and shown growth and triumphs, and people who want to learn from those experiences and do the same.
Tiffany?
Yeah, I mean, he said it all, but just to add to that, like I tend to tell people many times when I'm speaking to them that, like, you know, a lot of people like to glamorize their stories or their journeys. For me, that's only 5% of what it is that makes you credible. What makes you really credible is the lessons that you have taken from that journey and your whole transition. Did you go, you know, are you becoming educated? You know, did you grow into that mature person that you sought out? So it's 5% your story and 95% your journey and what you learned.
Absolutely.
Speaking of journey, right? Speaking of like what you learn, right? Tiffany, like what keeps you doing this work, right? Because it's a whole lot of work to be done, right? With really powerful younger people that has tremendous potential and yet doesn't have the support and resources in place to allow the full breadth of their potential to be manifest. And sometimes it becomes misdirected and leads to some kind of criminal legal justice involvement. So what keeps you doing the work?
What keeps me doing the work is seeing how history keeps repeating itself, you know, and just to give you an example of that is like how they took the prisons out the barrels and they put everyone on Rikers, and now they're thinking about putting the little facilities back in the barrels. And it's like, if it didn't work the first time, it doesn't work. What keeps me doing the work is making sure that we keep having these conversations and keep influencing our young people and encouraging them to do better and seeing them off to success and achieving their goals. What keeps me doing the work are my boys. You know, I have 2 boys, one 23 and one 12. Making sure that they do not become involved in the justice system. What keeps me doing the work is the building of my community. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad, and I'm not going to say from one era to another era, you know, but the violence, the uptick in the violence is getting worse and worse, and it's becoming younger and younger. So as long as this keeps happening, that will keep me doing the work.
And when you think about the uptick in violence, right, and they attribute it to our younger people, you know, while there may be some elements of truth to that, there are some other factors associated with the uptick in violence, particularly over the last 2 years with COVID-19. And when you suspend or cut funding for programs like summer youth employment, and you don't have the kind of resources necessary to engage our younger people with misdirected aggression, which is specific to our younger people in particular between the ages 16 and 24, you may have those kind of incidences. But when you cut funding, when you discontinue the kind of supports that they need, then these things kind of happen. And then oftentimes our younger people become the scapegoat and are blamed, right? In all many instances. But I wanted to add that context, but Abdul, like what keeps you doing the work?
Well, what keeps me doing the work is I'm gonna have to take it back a little bit historically and think about the fact that in the early 80s and 90s, a lot of men were taken from the community, and including myself, and we were incarcerated. And while being incarcerated, there's a generation of babies, including my sons and my daughters, who were left out here to be on their own and kind of figure out how to navigate through life. And I'm home, and when I came home, I committed to be the best parent I could be and give back to my children. It was something my mentor told me once before. He was like, you know, how do you get to your children when they want to be resistant? And I'm sitting there trying to figure that question out. Like, I can be forceful and use the hand, and I can punish. He's like, no, get to their friends. And the light went off. I said, oh, so in order to make my sons better, let me operate with their boys. And when I kind of incorporated that and how I decided to raise my own children, it really just kind of morphed into something more, and it became my life work. You know, I know that I have children who are impacted in the same communities that we're talking about right now, and one of the ways as a parent or as a man in my community, what is my drive? Just to keep my community, my family safe. So if that meant I had to, re-engage and engage young folks from a different perspective who don't necessarily have two parents at home, who don't necessarily have that role model that they could look up to, then guess what? I guess I became that surrogate, parent or uncle or big brother or friend or whatever they wanted, however they identified, that made me safe and credible enough to kind of operate in that space to support them. So doing this work is almost like it's a necessity. We know we recognize ourselves as gatekeepers, and knowing that there's always going to be something that we need to address to make sure our communities are sustained and get to that space where we thrive and we're not just in a space of survival.
Yeah. Any follow-up thoughts on that, Tiffany?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off what he said, and I actually felt the same way because again, I'm gonna take it back. When you're young, and you're being rebellious and not listening and breaking the laws. For me, it didn't catch up to me up until my adulthood rather. And I was taken away for a short period of time from my children. And at the age I was, being 28 when it first happened, like, what was I thinking? I'm already an adult. I'm a woman at that. At the time I had one child. Then I had my next son. So being taken away from my boys, I was embarrassed. I was a little disappointed in myself. So I wanted to just revamp my whole situation and just turn everything around and just make my kids proud. So I definitely feel Abdul where he's coming from.
And so, absolutely. And Tiffany, can you talk about, we have a few minutes left here, and we're certainly going to have you and Abdul come back to talk about the work that's happening with the Credible Messenger movement. But can you speak to the expansion work being done through CMJC?
Absolutely.
Nationally.
So I started when CMJC was just 8 months into its infancy.
And CMJC is the Credible Messenger
Justice Center, right. When I started, they had about 2 partnerships. They were just starting up. I came in with a huge network. They had somewhat of a network, but me coming in, and we did these immersions, where you bring the jurisdictions in. It has to be a team of community and system folks that are interested in the Credible Messenger model. And again, like Abdul mentioned earlier, the model itself, you don't have to use the model just working with youth and young adults. You could use it and tailor it to suit your population that you service. So the work has expanded in the last, I'm almost here 4 years. It has expanded into, we have 18 partnerships. I mean, we're in 18 jurisdictions. We're a network about 4,000 people strong.
Right.
4,000 strong. So the partnerships, again, are in different states: California, Washington, Maine, all over the place. And right now we're looking at doing an immersion, a virtual immersion this year. And we have about 5 or 6 new potential partnerships that are brewing. It's not guaranteed. We have to see how the rest of the, this spring rolls out before we do it in the fall. But again, like I said, all of the partnerships, they are doing different work. Some people are using the model to work within the ACS or the child welfare system. They have young people that were in the system come back in and mentor those that are aging out. We have others that are inside the schools. We have other partnerships where some gentlemen that were released from the prisons are going back in, mentoring folks that are still in and about to re-enter society. So the model is being implemented in a number of different ways. And I'm just super excited to see it and see it keep growing.
Absolutely. And Abdul, I know you're the executive director of Fuse, and obviously you're doing the Credible Messenger work. So just in terms of expansion work and what's happening there as we begin to close.
So it's interesting that you asked that question, because just recently we heard our new mayor speaking about making sure that every young person on probation has a Credible Messenger alongside of them to kind of help them navigate through the system. So I've been charged and part of conversations in different circles to kind of figure out the best way to help create that expansion and navigate and get the right folks from the community into those spaces to help to continue to grow and develop the work. The, the, the most powerful piece about the Credible Messenger movement is taking a holistic community approach and now professionalizing it and giving folks who just would ultimately be doing this for free an opportunity to get to a career and build a level of academic and professional experiences and guide our community. So the impact is going to be incredible over the next several years. I'm gonna say this, Tiffany, could vouch for me. I'm one of the first. I'm an alumni of the CMJC in the sense that I graduated from SLU in the master's program, having received both the MPA advanced certificate in public policy and administration, as well as the CMJC leadership community leadership certificate. So I took full advantage of the space to kind of learn how to complement the two and sharp, steel sharpen steel. So following in Tiffany's footsteps to just trying to make sure that I was moving in conjunction as she's moving, to make sure that I stay in tune to service my community in the most effective manner.
Absolutely. Well, Tiffany, Abdul, as always, pleasure speaking with you both, and we thank you so much for being here. The work of Credible Messengers are considerably important. We know its impact both locally and nationally, and we thank each of you for your commitment to that work. And so I thank you for giving us your thoughts and observations about that. And thank you, viewers, for joining us here today at Both Sides of the Bars. In the meantime, on behalf of the Fortune Society, we thank you so much for tuning in to this show entitled Both Sides of the Bars. If you're interested in finding out more about the Fortune Society, please check us out on the web at fortunesociety.org. That's fortunesociety.org, or on Facebook by typing in the Fortune Society. This is Andre Ward, and I appreciate all of you for joining us as viewers today as we critically look at both sides of the bars.